Hello everybody, Mrs. Kipp back again from Syracuse Academy of Science and Citizenship. I am back to read Jack and the Beanstalk Part 2. The suspense has been killing me all night. I want to find out what's going to happen to poor Jack. So far, we heard that Jack lives with his mother and the only way they get food is from their cow, Milky White, and all of a sudden one day the cow stops giving any milk. So Jack's mom says you need to take Milky White in a town and sell her so we can get some money, so we can get some food. So Jack's on his way to town. He runs into an unfamiliar older man who says, I will give you 5 magic beans for Milky White, your cow. And Jack says, okay, this sounds like a great plan. So he gets home. He says, Mom, guess what deal I made? You're going to be so impressed. He tells her what the deal was. I sold the cow for 5 magic beans, and Jack's mom is not impressed. She takes the beans, chucks them out the window, sends Jack to bed with no dinner, and then Jack wakes up the next morning to a giant beanstalk going all the way up to the sky. So, climbs the beanstalk, gets up there, finds a giant house with a giant door, knocks, and a giant woman answers, and he says, can I have breakfast? I haven't eaten in a couple days. And she said, okay. He's in the middle of eating breakfast, and the giant woman said, I am married to a giant, fierce guy. And right before we ended, we heard boom, boom, boom. Someone big was coming. So, now we're going to find out who that was. Was it the giant woman's fierce husband? Maybe it was somebody else. I don't know, but I can't wait. Our objectives for today. We will demonstrate familiarity with the fairy tale Jack and the Beanstalk, identify the fairy tale elements of Jack and the Beanstalk, identify fairy tales as a type of fiction, identify common characteristics of fairy tales such as once upon a time, beginnings, royal characters, elements of fantasy, problems and solutions, and happy endings. So maybe this fierce giant will turn out to be nice. I don't know. I don't know what the happy ending is going to be, but I can't wait to find out. So here's Jack. Looks like he's hiding in a closet, but this looks like the outline of a big, huge person. The side of his face, like this. Nose, mouth, beard, maybe? Yikes. Goodness gracious, it's my husband, said the giant's wife. What on earth shall I do? Quick, jump in here. And Jack jumped into the oven just as the giant came in. He was a big one, to be sure. He had 3 cows tied to his belt. He threw them down on the table and said rudely to his wife, Here, wife, cook me a couple of these for breakfast. But wait, what is that I smell? Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. No, dear, said his wife. It's nothing but the leftover smell of that little boy you had for dinner yesterday. Go along and wash up, and by the time you come back, I'll have breakfast ready. So the giant went off, and Jack was about to jump out of the oven when the woman whispered, Wait till he's asleep. He always has a nap after breakfast. Okay, rewind for a minute. He came in and had cows tied to his belt. Cows. So think how big he is if those are just tied to his belt. And said, cook me a couple of these for breakfast. He eats a couple cows for breakfast. And she heard the wife say, No, you just still smell the little boy that you ate yesterday. How do you think Jack's feeling in that closet right now? There's the giant, and there's Jack under the table. I thought she just said wait till he falls asleep. The giant gulped down his breakfast. Then he went to a giant chest and took out 2 big bags. He sat down, and from the bags he took out piles of gold coins. He began counting them very slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then his head began to nod, and he soon began to snore, so that the whole house shook. Oh God, now he's asleep. Jack can get out, hopefully. Jack crept out of the oven, tiptoed past the giant, grabbed one of the big bags of gold, which he could barely lift, and ran lickety-split back to the beanstalk. Lickety-split means he ran very quickly. He threw down the bag of gold, which fell kerplunk into his mother's garden, then climbed down until at last he reached the ground. Well, maybe his mom will be happy with him now. Well, Mother, he said, wasn't I right about the beans? They really are magic. For a while, Jack and his mother bought what they needed and a little more with the bag of gold. But at last the bag was empty, so Jack made up his mind to try his luck again at the top of the beanstalk. He climbed and he climbed and he climbed, and once again, sure enough, there was a great tall woman standing on the doorstep of her house, and once again he asked for something to eat. Go away, boy, said the woman, or else my husband will eat you up for breakfast. But say, aren't you the youngster who came here once before? Do you know on that very day my husband lost one of his bags of gold? Did he now? Said Jack. How very strange. Maybe I could help you find it, but I'm so hungry that first I must have something to eat. Think she's going to give him something to eat? So the great tall woman gave him something to eat, but he had hardly taken a bite when, thump, 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 they heard the giant's footsteps once again, and the wife hid Jack in the oven. It all happened as if it had before. In came the giant, bellowing or shouting in a loud, powerful voice, fee, fi, fo, fum. Then after gulping down 3 broiled oxen for breakfast, the giant said, Wife, bring me my hen and my golden harp. This giant isn't very pleasant to be around. He's grumpy and rude and demanding. The wife brought them. The giant looked at the hen and barked or said loudly, Lay! And the hen laid an egg, all of gold. Then the giant looked at the golden harp and said, Sing! And the golden harp sang beautifully. And it went on singing until the giant fell asleep and started snoring like thunder. Jack sneaked out of the oven and crept like a mouse on his hands and knees. Then he crawled up the table, grabbed the hen and the golden harp, and dashed towards the door. But the hen began to cluck, and the harp called out, Master, master! The giant woke up just in time to see Jack running away with his treasures. Jack ran as fast as he could, and the giant came bounding or leaping forward after him, and would have caught him, only Jack had a great start. When Jack got to the beanstalk, he climbed down as fast as he could. The giant reached the beanstalk and stopped short. He didn't like the idea of climbing down such a ladder. But like it or not, the giant swung himself down into the beanstalk, which shook with all of his weight. Uh-oh. Jack got busted. By this time, Jack had climbed down and reached home. Mother, he cried, give me an axe, and hurry. His mother came rushing out with an axe in her hand. She ran with Jack to the beanstalk, and then she screamed with fright as she saw the giant making his way down. Uh-oh. What do you think Jack wants an axe for right now? Jack swung the axe and gave a chop at the beanstalk. The giant fell felt the beanstalk shake, and he stopped to see what was the matter. Jack gave another chop, and another, and the beanstalk began to topple over. Then the giant fell down and broke his crown, and the beanstalk came tumbling after. From then on, Jack and his mother had all the money and music they wanted, for the hen gave them golden eggs, and the harp sang for them all day long, and they all lived happily ever after. Well, maybe the harp and the hen were happier living with Jack and his mom, since they weren't as rude and demanding as the giant, but I still kind of feel bad for the giant's wife. She didn't seem so bad. Now she's stuck up there with the giant all alone, and he's probably even grumpier now that he's lost a bag of gold, a hen that lays golden eggs, and his magic harp. Bummer. All right, let's go over some questions, and we will call it a day till tomorrow. Number 1. What does the giant's wife tell Jack to do in the beginning of this part of the fairy tale when the rude giant comes into the house to gulp down his breakfast? So what does the giant's wife tell Jack to do so the giant doesn't see him? She says that Jack should hide in the oven because the giant likes to eat little boys. What was the first treasure Jack takes from the giant? The first time he goes up the beanstalk, what does he take from the giant? He takes a bag of gold coins. When he goes up the beanstalk a second time, what does he take from the giant? He takes the goose that lays the golden eggs and the magic harp. How does the giant's wife treat Jack the second time? She was nice to him again. Remember, she tried to feed him breakfast, and she helped him hide from her husband, the fierce giant. What happens when Jack tries to escape with the hen and the harp? The giant wakes up and comes bounding down the beanstalk after Jack. Jack chops down the beanstalk with an axe, and the giant falls down and breaks his crown. What parts of this fairy tale are fantasy? There's a whole lot of fantasy going on in this story. What are some parts of fantasy that we heard? Climbing a beanstalk, a hen laying golden eggs, a singing harp, giants, magic beans. A lot of that's fantasy. All that's fantasy. Most of the story we read today was fantasy. All right, an important vocabulary word from today was rudely. He threw them down on the table and said rudely to his wife, "Here, wife, cook me a couple of these for breakfast." Rudely means without politeness or respect. The boy rudely cut to the front of the lunch line. Can you tell me about a time where you saw somebody acting rudely? Now, my first graders know that I do not like when people act rude. So, when somebody says to you, hey, give me that, instead of, could I please have that? That's rude. Give me that. Very rude. Or when we're lining up for lunch, somebody pushes you out of the way to get in front of them. That's rude. It's behaving rudely. All right, so I'm going to go through a few sentences. You are going to tell me if they are acting politely, using manners, or acting rudely, not using manners. Politely, yay. Rudely, boo. All right, number 1. The boys are helping pick up apples that fell out of the bag. Are they acting politely? They're acting rudely. The boys are helping pick up apples that fell out of the bag. They're acting politely. They're being helpful. That's very nice. That's polite. Number 2, the girl was yelling at her brother for spilling his milk. Is she acting politely or is she acting rudely? She is acting rudely. Very rudely. Number 3, the boy slammed his door shut before his little sister could come into his room. You acting politely? Or are you acting rudely? The boy slammed his door shut before his little sister could come into his room. Rude. Very rude. Number 4, the man started talking when someone else was already talking. Is that polite or rude? Started talking when someone else was already talking. Acting rudely, not impressed. Last one, the children remembered to say please and thank you. Is that acting politely? Acting rudely. The children remembered to say please and thank you. That is good. Acting politely. All right, guys, believe it or not, that is our last fairy tale in this domain. That was the last one. So next time, I am going to come up with a quick assessment for all the fairy tales we've read so far in this domain. And you guys are going to give me either a thumbs up if it's true, thumbs down if it's false, or a smiley face if it's true, and a frown if it's false. We'll figure that out. But I will see you tomorrow. I can't wait. Have a good night. Bye.